Hey, this is Kyle Thomas from Exhorder and Trouble, and I'll see you at the Tampa Morgue.
Through him, with him, in the unity of the Holy Spirit, all glory and honor is yours, Almighty Father, forever and ever.
What's up? This is Tony, and you are listening to the Tampa Morgue. And I am joined, like always, with my co host, Mr. Ed Webb. What's up, dude?
Mr. Anderson, what's going on, brother?
Episode number 33, man. We are rolling.
Yeah, we are. And this is a good one, man, for sure.
It is good, but we are going to jump right into it because our guest is on a tight press schedule. So I know that he's got to get doing a shitload of interviews. So we're going to bug him for a little while. We are joined tonight by Kyle Thomas of Exhorder, Floodgate, Trouble, Alabama Thunderpussy, Jones Lounge, Pitts vs. Preps. Mr. Kyle Thomas. How you doing, Kyle?
I'm well, thank you, fellas. Thanks for having me. How y'all doing?
Doing
Excellent.
good, man. Doing good. And we opened up the show with Slaughter in the Vatican off the record. Is that still one of your favorite songs to play live?
Yes. Slaughter in the Vatican has always been one of my favorite Exhorder songs, period. There was a special time when we were in our formative years. Our earliest songs were like Legions of Death, Anal Lust, Ripping Flesh, Homicide, and those are all great songs. But once we started, like, we wrote the song Exhorder, and then the ones that followed shortly after that were Death in Vain, Desecrator, and Slaughter in the Vatican. And that whole era right there was when, to me, the game started changing. So this past couple of years, we've been opening our show with the instrumental Incontinence from the Law, which was actually originally called Wake the Dead on our Get Rude demo. So that was the first song we ever introduced people to Exhorder with, was the instrumental. So that last couple of years, we're like, well, let's play the instrumental as the intro and then go straight into Slaughter in the Vatican. And I think I don't think people expected us ever to really open with Slaughter in the Vatican because it's a long song, kind of an epic journey of a song versus, a 3.5 minute thrasher. It's a lot of different elements of this band. But yes, Slaughter in the Vatican will always be one of my favorites. It's got the heaviness, it's got the grooves, it's got the thrash, it's got the punk feel. Like, there's a lot of different, almost everything that makes Exhorder is in that song.
Yeah, because you actually never considered, you guys are definitely have the hardcore element to you. And a lot of people, I think, don't realize that you guys were almost more of a hardcore band at first, right? That you're definitely not a death metal band, which I know you guys kind of, when you came out, those bands were rolling out of Florida. You had the Deicides and the Obituaries and stuff rolling out, but you guys always had more of that hardcore vibe.
We started on the hardcore scene, the punk rock scene here in New Orleans, because the heavy metal scene didn't want anything to do with us. Heavy metal at the time in New Orleans was mostly glam hair metal, and chicks thought we were ugly, and we probably were. So, the punk rockers said, well, shit, just come play at our gigs. Our first gig, we played with no effects, we used to play with Agnostic Front, Rollins Band, Corrosion of Conformity. We played a lot of punk rock shows back in the day, and that's where we got that's where we built this band, and I've never forgotten the mindset. So, yeah, we're a thrash band also, but I don't think you can really lump us into one category. I know people try to really find a title to place bands. I just don't know that there is one title that totally personifies what we do.
You guys' first show was August 17th, 1986 at Robert's Playhouse with Shell
Wow,
Shock, Acid Bath, Surfing Jesus, Haunted Soul, Spoiled Brats, and No Effects for $6.
Yes, that is true. Yes, that was the day before I started my junior year of high school.
Crazy. That is crazy. And you guys were actually invited to that show by a group of punks that used to call themselves the Swamp Rats?
The Swamp Rats, yes. The Swamp Rats were a group of fans that got tired of not being able to see the bands they wanted to see, Dead Kennedys, Bad Brains, Black Flag. So they banded together and pooled their money together and started putting on shows, for better or for worse. I talk to a lot of them still, and they laugh about how grassroots it was, and they just didn't really know what they were doing, but they just were doing the best they could to get these bands here to play in New Orleans. And that first show that we did under their umbrella, and it really just kind of took off from there. We started playing a couple of shows with Shell Shock here and there, Graveyard Rodeo, and then the next thing you know, we were off on our own, playing our own headline gigs. I was 16 years old, and we were playing to like 500 kids every time we played. It was crazy.
The VFWs, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so and you would and just really fast when you were growing up, your first musical memory was what, an 8-track of "Come Together" from the Beatles.
This is true, man. You've done your homework. Uh, yeah, I can remember having a cloth diaper on with the big blue baby pin, holding it together, just running around barefoot in my parents' kitchen, and man, that right before the chorus comes in, when he is hold you in his armchair, you can feel his disease. I just remember planting my feet and just
It all
boogieing my
began.
ass off at 2 years old. And then I just went back to whatever I was doing, but it stopped me dead in my tracks, and I'll never forget that. That's the first music I ever remember hearing.
Yeah, and you used to actually show I remember, and I still see some actually on. Actually, YouTube has a channel for it. You used to watch the Midnight Special on Fridays, right? Which always had like what Bowie and Journey and
That was a major, major introduction to a lot of great music for me. I first saw Alice Cooper there. I first saw David Bowie there. First saw the Cars there. Earth, Wind, and Fire. Uh, so much great stuff. And then, that as a Kiss fan, I remember being like, I want to see Kiss. I want to see Kiss. and Queen, all of that stuff. It was a great way to. It gave you something to want to stay up late for on a Friday night. When I want to say I might have been in first grade when I started watching that show, kindergarten, first grade, and as a kid that's that young, staying up that late is not an easy thing to do. So there were plenty of times where I fell asleep and only like caught little bits of it because my siblings were on the couch watching it, and I was just like the youngest one there trying to keep up with everybody.
yeah. And you spoke of Kiss. Your sister used to get what, you and Kevin, Kiss records for the holidays.
Yeah, yeah. My sisters or my parents, Santa Claus. Santa Claus brought me Love Gun.
There you go.
But I remember when I was in first grade, my brother got A Night at the Opera by Queen, and I got Walt Disney's Greatest Hits, and I was mad. I was like, Santa thinks I'm a baby. so, uh, so the next year I got Love Gun, and I felt a lot more grown up. And I don't know why I loved that album cover, but I did.
That's a great cover, and I know and it makes sense. Like we have siblings too, so you and Kevin, like what he got, what Diary of a Madman was it, and you hated it because he loved it, but then you grew into it, and
Yes,
the same thing with punk music, right? With that,
yes, yes. A lot of the things I hated were simply because one of my siblings loved it. so this goes true for a lot of artists. But as you get older and you listen, it's harder to deny when something's good. I mean, I've had friends even almost ruin. There was a guy I knew that loved Van Halen, and I couldn't stand this guy, and he almost ruined Van Halen for me. It wasn't until I was in my later teens that I really liked Van Halen because I was able to separate it from my dislike for this guy.
yeah, definitely understandable. And you also, so you actually played. You wanted to play a sax, right? One of your teachers came in your classroom basically and asked what instruments you guys wanted to play. And you wanted to play a saxophone, but you wound up playing the trumpet, which actually you played for 5 years.
I did. I did. I took private lessons on the trumpet. I never did have a passion for the trumpet, but I wanted to play music so badly. My dad saw the price tag on that saxophone, and I could tell that this isn't going very well. So he and the owner of the store said, "Check out this trumpet." Nobody wants to kiss the trumpet player. So I took the trumpet, and I'm glad I did because the little lady that taught me how to, she was like, I don't know, she was like 70, 80 years old and drove a Z28. It was so cool. And she was like 4'10". But she taught me how to tap my foot to a metronome and, time signatures, you know, all of the fundamentals she taught me. And I think that's a big reason why I'm able to pick up instruments to this day. And, even if I don't have a lesson on it, I'll figure out how to make it work some kind of way. I've had some people say, I don't know how you play and sing these Exhorder songs on guitar and sing at the same time. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I think it falls back to being 8 years old and learning on the trumpet and just getting the fundamentals beaten into my psyche just from a very young age.
You picked up a bass at 13 and 14. You were like what, Geezer Butler, and you were playing Iron Maiden records and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that was definitely. I never. I always looked at the bass as a feature instrument, and I always. It used to drive me crazy when people say you decided to play bass because it's easy, huh? It's like, well, it can be, but it can also be extremely challenging to do more with only four strings. There's that. It's a much different instrument. It's really not a guitar. It's more like a, a violin than anything.
Tell
Uh,
Geddy Lee that,
yeah.
or Steve
So
DiGiorgio, or any of those
yeah,
guys. That how easy it is.
exactly, exactly. Yeah, I mean, Lord knows Steve's one of the best I've ever seen, much less known. And uh, there is a less is more approach to bass at certain times, and I think that's necessary. We actually employed that philosophy a lot on this new album that we've done, where the bass at times just needs to stay more locked in with the drums and provide that foundation so that everything else in the song pops a little bit more. And when you treat the bass as a third guitar, I think you're doing a disservice to the instrument.
Agreed.
Definitely. Also, influence wise, your first influence was Blackie Lawless, which what I want to be somebody was like the song you pretty much was singing at a young age.
Vocally, I wouldn't say he was my first influence, but it was the first singing that I attempted that I was like, oh, that's not bad, actually. And I was with a bunch of people. I don't know, I was 14 years old, and we were out like a Friday night drinking and smoking, and there's drag racing going on, and my parents definitely didn't know where the hell I was. And somebody was blasting that first Wasp album, and I was singing along top of my lungs to "I Want to Be Somebody," and everybody there was kind of like, "Damn, you actually sound kind of good." And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no." And they kept asking me to do it, and next thing I know, they're asking me to sing, and they don't want me to play bass anymore.
And actually, Joan Jett, I heard, was one of your big influences, which is awesome because Joan Jett, I believe, I mean, shit, as a kid, like Cherry Bomb, what was it, School Days and shit, she was just awesome. I mean, and for you, that was an
Yeah,
influence also.
yeah. Joan was a bad mofo, still is. I saw her in concert maybe about 10 years ago, and she was killer, man. But yeah, she always had this street snarl to her voice, but she could turn and sound like an angel as well. So to me, I was always like, yeah, Joan's a real singer. But I sang for years on in cover bands on Bourbon Street in nightclubs, and I've sang side by side with a lot of women as much as men. And a lot of times when I Love Rock and Roll came up and I'm singing with a girl, a lot of times they kick it over to me because they can't get the nasty, ow, the little grit that you need that vocal fry for to get that really down and dirty sound. And these girls couldn't figure out how to do it. And so they would kind of kick it over to me, like, "Would you take this? I think it just translates better from your voice." I love Joan. I love rock and roll. I love Joan Jett.
Because she started in punk rock. That's why she got that voice.
The Runaways and all that
Bam,
good stuff. Um,
bam.
and your first band was with Jimmy Bower in '85, a band called Armageddon.
Yes, yes. I played bass and Jimmy played drums. Yes, and we had a couple of originals that were pretty cool. And I think our friends were like, "Wow!" Like, and the originals were very like they sounded like they could have come off of one of the first two Iron Maiden records, or even like uh, Peace of Mind or something. That was the mindset that we were all in when it came to songwriting. And that band was actually pretty decent. We played a lot of Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, Kiss, a little bit of Metallica. So, and Metallica was relatively unknown. This was when Ride the Lightning was still new. So people thought that when we played For Whom the Bell Tolls that we wrote that song.
And your logo for that band was that it had to be Aerosmith inspired right there, right? Because you had the wings on there and stuff.
It's pretty blatant. Yeah, I'm
it's,
not
it's
sure. I can't remember who painted that. But yeah, I remember we all always thought, that kind of looks like Aerosmith.
So, and you were attending punk shows, and that's how you met the guys from Exhorder, right? You already knew Chris kind of, but I think you met Andy there.
Yeah. I knew Chris. We lived not far from each other, and we had a lot of the same mutual friends. Um, and then I met Andy talking to him at a DRI gig, and found out that they were working together. I was like, "Oh, Chris, yeah, I know Chris." And I had seen the other guys out and about at shows for a long time. So I got to talking with them, and they said, "Well, come on by, and we'll see how it goes." And I, I, I think it was "Deliver Us to Evil" by Exodus was the first song that we did together, and from that moment on, I've been the only singer of this band.
And you guys tried out, what was it? And you guys were jamming in Chris's bedroom, was it back then?
Yeah. His parents had a big two-story house, and sometimes we'd go to the garage, but most of the time, like especially in the summertime, we would practice in his room where the air conditioning was. And it was tight, man. It's probably a 10 foot by 10 foot room with five stinking sweaty teenage young 20 somethings. A lot of amps, a lot of drums.
What was your first impression of like Vinny? It was that time? It was Vinny, Andy, David, right, and Chris.
And David Main, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved them all. We all had very similar musical interests, similar senses of humor, and I'm not sure that our goal was even necessarily to do what we've done up to now. I think our goal at the time was just we got tired of not hearing enough music that we enjoyed, so we decided to write our own.
And who came? Do you actually know who came up with the name Exhorder?
Yeah, it started with Chris. Chris came up uh, with Exhorder with a T. And he's like, the word exhort, it means to strongly encourage somebody or try to persuade someone into doing something. And I want to say, I think it was Vinny that said, why don't we take the T out and put a D and make it a play on words? And now you've got exhort and order together. So there's a lot of people that think it has to, they say the H, exhorder, and it's really not exhorder. It's exhorder because it's exhort with a D, like, and that D with order kind of makes it more authoritarian, I think, and it becomes forceful persuasion, and that was kind of the unofficial motto of the band, like our tongue-in-cheek way of saying we're just going to do whatever we want and take whatever we want, as young men feel like they're entitled to.
Yeah. And who did the logo for you guys?
Ty Bouvier. Ty Bouvier is a renowned tattoo artist. He's toured with many, many bands, Pantera, Nine Inch Nails, Typo Negative. He's gone out on the road with a lot of bands and tattooed along the way. Old friend of ours, for sure. He did that original logo back in 1986.
And a lot of, Chris was actually a punk drummer, right? He wasn't even, that was his kind of deal. But you guys, for people who don't realize, Exhorder was very influenced by like the NOLA jazz and funk, right?
That is true. And Chris is a fully accomplished jazz drummer. So not only is he fluent as a rock thrash metal drummer, but he can play with a jazz ensemble. He's also has a marching band background, so he did drum corps, and he's absolutely 100% perfectly well versed in all of the rudiments and fundamentals that it takes to do traditional drumming.
And you mentioned the marching band drums, which I'll get to in a little bit, but that had a lot to do with. I know you guys. We had to re-record the drums for Slaughter in the Vatican, and he had no click tracks, right? But for his drumming ability from being in the marching band, he was able to kill that.
Yeah, and it was a nightmare. It really was. That whole recording process. We started recording the album under a contract with a label called Mean Machine that folded before it ever came to be. The budget wasn't good. Our sessions didn't start good. We had an engineer that didn't really understand. He was a good engineer for like traditional New Orleans music, but I don't think he really understood what we were trying to do. So we took that session and went to Morrisound and started re-recording the guitars, bass, vocals, all that stuff. And then we got to the end of that and realized the drums just still don't sound right. So then we went back and Chris re-recorded the drums just off of listening to the headphones, basically. And God bless him. It couldn't have been easy, but uh, the only thing that remains from that original session is the tempos of the songs, and they're too fast.
And a lot of people think that the Get Rude demo was your first demo, but you guys actually had a demo recorded before that, didn't you? I think it had like Legions of Death, Ripping Flesh, and Anal Lust on it that got lost.
Yeah, yeah. It was like a kind of a two-track live kind of thing. Our friend Sam Piccolo, who used to do, he did front of house sound and provided backline for the PA for all the punk and metal shows back in the day. He had this homemade PA that was just kind of like the Millennium Falcon. What a piece of junk, but it always sounded great. And Sam was our friend, and he just loved lugging his stuff around and putting on all these big shows. So he had a home studio set up. So we went and recorded at his house, did all the music live on one track, and then I recorded the vocals on the second track. And it was a pretty badass little sounding demo for a do-it-yourself demo. And we used to take it to Tulane University's radio station, WTUL, college radio, like I was saying earlier. And we would play the songs on there. So unless somebody's got an old tape recording of one of those old shows, that's the only place I can think of where any of those recordings exist anymore. My copy's been gone. I think I lost my copy in the 80s. So
Shit.
I don't know where that thing is. But yeah, then we did Get Rude on an 8-track in a guy's home studio in his backyard. It wasn't until we did the Slaughter in the Vatican demo starting in 87 where we went to a real 24-track studio and did it 2-inch, reel to reel.
You guys had a song called Poser too. You guys never recorded that tune?
The Poser song was the actual name
Yes.
of it. We never did record the Poser song. It was for Exhorder standards, it was fairly primitive. It was cool. I always liked it, but lyrically, it might as well have come off of Stormtroopers of Death, Speak English or Die. It was just really simple, primitive, shock value type vocals about killing posers because they're not worthy. And it's, all right,
That time period, right? Yeah.
Paul Bailoff has already existed, ladies and gentlemen. We don't need to take this any further, and we did go through a little spell where there was like butt posers and all that shit, but I don't know, that's never really been my bag too much. I'm a firm believer that everybody has a right to be at the damn show as long as they're not causing a problem.
Definitely. And you guys, and talking about problems, I know you guys, even when I was a kid, and living in Tampa, me and Ed, Ed's been in Morrisound. We've all been around that area, and Exhorder was full of chaos, right? And there was a period, always, yeah. And there was a period of time, right, where I think you guys had just finished the Slaughter in the Vatican demo. And I guess Chris and Vinny got into it. Vinny went to jail, I believe. David, and Chris left. Now, David actually joined your brother in a band, right, called the Moon Crickets?
Correct.
Never came back. And is it true that, so basically you left, but you came back and Phil came and actually tried out for the band, and you said, hey, I'm going to get my job. I'm keeping my spot in this band. Is this actually, because I don't hear, I remember like there was an interview you did in 2006, I had read about this. No one ever talks about this really.
That is true, actually. Yeah, I was ready to get back on bass anyway. So when the band broke up, again, internal struggles always was a problem in this band. And, a lot of it was alcohol fueled most of the time. And I'm not a big fan of a Jekyll and Hyde environment. I'm really not. So literally, like everybody just kind of quit that day. It was like, to hell with this. But then they started putting it back together, and yeah, like you said, David was off, and that's when Jay Saravalo entered the picture. So they were trying to finish up the Slaughter in the Vatican demo. I even went into the studio, not as a member of the band anymore, but just went in to finish my vocal tracks, just to finish the project. So then they start putting the band back together, asked me if I was interested. I said no. Then, I heard Andy went back, and so it was Jay, Vinny, and Andy, and they were working with Sid Muntz, who used to play in Crowbar for a little bit at one point. But Sid's a guy that's played around here for a long time. Excellent drummer, great guy. And I just wasn't interested. And then I found out Phil wanted the gig, and they were planning to jam together, or they did jam together or something. And so I was like, I love that guy. He's a great singer. And if he's serious about my job, maybe I should be too. So I said, I'd like to have my job back, please. And there was a lot of laughter, and man, it's your job. Come on back. You want it, it's yours. So that's the way it happened.
And Phil was extremely supportive of you guys. Like he used to pimp your demos all the time.
Yep,
Like he was a big
always,
Exhorder guy. I mean,
always. There's been so much media and fan driven rivalry between the two. And let me tell you, there might be a handful of people that have been in and out of this band over the years that have a different opinion than I do on this topic, but I have never had a beef with Pantera. I've been friends with Phil for a long time. I always got along well with Daryl and Rex. And I just, I don't care about all that stuff. So I think that's a more fan-driven thing. When Phil found out that I wanted my job back, the next time I bumped into him, I'm like, sorry, not sorry, And he was just like, dude, what are you talking about? I'm a fan of the band. I'd rather see you there than anything, But I think it was definitely a point in his career where he was starting to draw a line in the sand with them as to what he wanted to do moving forward in his career. And I think Metal Church was knocking on his door. There were a lot of bands looking to swipe Phil away. He was a good singer, and a great frontman. So I think he just went to them and said, let's flip the script. Let's start doing something a little more along the lines of what I'm into. And I think it's going to pay dividends. And so that's when their transformation came, But yeah, the whole, I still talk with Phil regularly. Like there's no bad blood on my side.
yeah, I just saw them last week. I just saw them perform over in Tampa.
Killer. They were
Yeah.
killer. Very
You
Of
just
good.
saw
course it was
Pantera over
killer.
there.
It's freaking Pantera.
Well, you get the whole people that's not, Zach isn't Daryl,
Oh,
but you know what,
yeah.
dude? Seeing
You know
Zach
what?
be Zach, doing Gerald, justice. It was so heavy. I have told Tony, Lamb of God was heavy, but Pantera was a different kind of heavy that I haven't heard in a long time at an arena show. Because usually, it's echo, just a big echo, and you hear something and you're hearing it. But that was something. Whoever did their
Pantera.
sound,
You know what Pantera is? Pantera is Van Halen on meth. It's just like supercharged. I mean,
yeah,
dude, look, I got
yeah.
that was a gift from Phil right there for Far Beyond Driven. He gave me
Yeah.
that as a
Nice.
as a nod to basically the friendship we had and the influence that Exhorder may have had on what they did. That's honest right there, and that's appreciated. I've had people say, "Oh, he's throwing dirt in your face with the thing." What? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Those are idiots.
People are crazy. Yeah, and you
Yeah,
had
and the people that for the people that are going, "Oh, no Vinny, no Dime, no Pantera," well, then stay home and listen to the records, because there's people that weren't even born yet that want to hear those songs played live. Give
I
them a chance.
I took
younger
my
crowds
son.
are out there
God,
too.
I took my
Phil and
son because he never got to see that. He
yeah,
wasn't around, and he was
yeah.
like, "I'm glad I went because I had no idea what that was like. You know, most
But
people will
that's
never know what's like.
there are purist fans and gatekeepers that they hold this special era of a band close to their heart, and they feel like that's the only version of the band. I've seen it happen as a singer for Trouble. I've seen it happen as a singer for Alabama Thunderpussy, and I've seen it happen in Exhorder, where people, oh, no, this guy, no band, whatever. It's like, you know what, man? Then stay home and listen to the records you love, because you know what? Most of the people that say they're not going to the show because of
They're there.
they're going.
They're there.
Oh yeah. Well, I can promise you it was sold out. So it
Yeah,
was
exactly.
You know, they were there.
Exactly.
They might be standing in the back like this, but they're there.
That is exactly. A question I always wanted to ask you, because I know, first of all, Andy was an amazing bass player. He was a killer slap bass player, a guy.
Oh, absolutely.
But we all, like, I remember as a kid, man, the fucking Slaughter in the Vatican. What it was the Law, actually, I believe. Andy and his mom. What happened? What was the deal? Sucking ball. I mean, what was the deal? I mean,
Andy. Poor Andy.
You only have to answer what you want to. We're not looking for, but I have to ask that.
Let me just say, Andy took more abuse from anybody I've ever known in a band situation, and didn't leave. He left a lot later than I would have. That's for sure. I mean, you're talking about having his hair set on fire, his shoes filled with urine. I mean, just awful shit, dude. It's it might elicit some laughter, but at the end of the day, it's really not that funny. I mean, the poor dude took a fucking beating from everybody. And but Andy lived with his mother, and he was the oldest of us. Andy was in his 20s already when I was 16, just starting this band. But he was just, I don't know. His mother was extremely Catholic, and she just thought we were the incarnation of all evil, and she did not want him playing with us. And literally, the last time he quit, he's like, my mom won't let me play with y'all anymore. Poor guy. And so that was the mature response of this band, was to basically defile his mother in the fuck you list,
So yeah, that was something I remember reading I was like, damn, man. But yeah, you guys did that. Obviously we talked about Slaughter, the Law. That was an album right there that. Obviously, you took some of the songs off of it. You were rushed on that album, basically, and that's why some of those Get Rude songs wound up on there.
True.
And you were never satisfied with that, right? You said because some of those songs weren't even completed.
Yeah, we were writing in the studio, which is, it's not impossible to do, but when the majority of your new material is being crafted in the studio and you've got a $10,000 budget and you're experimenting with guitar tones, it's a recipe for disaster. We've only got half of the guitar tones that were supposed to be on that album that are actually present on that album, because the other ones were unusable. They were just, they weren't ironed out before we got in the studio. It ate up a lot of time. It left me with only 8-9 hours to sing my vocals on that album. So like what you hear is like literally me just spitting it out in a day for the most part.
That's why the Black Sabbath cover went on there too, just to get another song on there.
Yeah. So we had to rob Incontinence, which was called Wake the Dead. I think I may have mentioned that before. And that was on the Get Rude demo. Unforgiven was also on the Get Rude demo. So we tweaked that one a little bit, and between that and the Black Sabbath cover, we would have never had a complete album if we hadn't borrowed those songs and honored one of our favorite bands in the process.
And you knew, so you guys did the Law, and was it the last show of the European tour? You pretty much knew that at that time period, you knew you were done, right? You were doing the last show. I don't know if it was Germany or Belgium, but you were doing your last show. You guys were finishing the show with Anal Lust, and you knew before you were leaving that gig that you were
Yep.
pretty much done with Exhorder at that time period.
That is true. I remember, I think the last show was at Bebob in Belgium, and I just remember, as we're wrapping up the last song, just thinking to myself, this is it. I'll never be on stage with these dudes ever again. And I was right for about 7 or 8 years, I think. We didn't do anything again for a little while. I went and I bounced between a couple of things before I finally started getting serious with my brother about putting Floodgate together. And that's where my attention went after that, and that was where my fire and passion were. I was playing guitar. I had an instrument in my hand again. I was happier.
Okay, so I really fast with the Floodgate. You know, that band, that Penalty record was definitely killer. I loved it right when it came out, and it was odd with that band because you guys were rolling, but you guys were kind of getting fucked by the label. Because I remember like Cavalera called you up, Gloria. She wanted to get you on the tour, which you guys did the Sepultura tour, which was, you know, was the gigantic tour for you guys. That was the Roots thing, and they tried to push another band on there.
Yeah, what happened was Deftones were slated to be the direct support on that band. On that tour, and for whatever reason they couldn't do the tour, so Gloria called Chris Nail, who was actually managing Floodgate at the time, and said, I'd like to get y'all on there. So he said, okay, well, you know, so-and-so at Roadrunner, obviously. And she's like, yeah, of course. She's like, well, call them and start making it happen, and we'll make it happen. And then Gloria called back a little while later and said, I don't know what the hell they're thinking, but I called them and I told them who I wanted on this tour, and they instantly started trying to get one of their other bands on. And Chris was like, oh, really? Is that so? And she said, yep. So I told them, we take Floodgate or I'll call another label. And and that's, you know, so Roadrunner finally caved in and gave us the tour support we needed to do that tour. But they didn't really want to give us much else beyond that. And I think it was the owner that really had a disdain for it. I don't think he liked me, to be honest with you, because he didn't like Exhorder. He wanted to chop Exhorder after Slaughter in the Vatican. And Monty kind of told him, if they go, I go. And we did the law. And then he went back to Monty and said, drop him. Monty said, well, I can't put my neck on the block a second time. Sorry, guys. But he always believed in everything I did. He believed greatly in Floodgate. I didn't want to sign with Roadrunner because of my bad experience with them in the Exhorder days. But he convinced me that not only was Roadrunner right, but that he was right for Floodgate. And he wasn't wrong. He's actually our A&R guy at Nuclear Blast. And I'll trust Monty with business dealings for years, because I know him and we've had a personal friendship in addition, and I know if something's really wrong, he's going to tell me rather than let it sneak up and bite me on the ass.
Sure, I think his name is like the first name on your thanks list on the law. I think it was that one that Monty's on there.
Yeah, Monty is truly a believer in this band, and we could not have done most of what we've done without Monty.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, I know you were supposed to. I think your booking agent wants you guys to go out with Tool, and they kind of fucked you on that. You know, you guys had a lot of opportunity that, you know, because Floodgate was a different breed. It was definitely different, it was more your roots. Like, I know you're a Black Sabbath guy, a Trouble guy, which, you know, obviously you wound up being in that band. Floodgate was more you than almost in a lot of ways, right? And it really bled over into that.
Yeah, it was special to me because it was something I started with my brother. You know, we wrote most of the material together. The other guys contributed greatly as well, and it was just a band. It was, you know, it was a band of guys that liked being together, and we had a common goal. And I don't know, it was weird. It was like we went from overnight from being like kind of like the hope for the future at Roadrunner in that field that we were doing to new metal came in, and they just instantly took anything that they were putting into us and put it into that. And we just fell by the wayside like the puppy that you get at Christmas that, you know, spring comes around and the puppy's now crapping everywhere and making a mess. And it's just not, the honeymoon is over.
Tied to the tree in the backyard.
Yeah.
And we're going to play a track off of the Penalty album right now. We're going to play Shivering from Floodgate, and we'll be back right after this. Okay, Kyle. I know you're got a lot of press today, so we're gonna talk about the new album in a second. There's just one more band I wanted to mention to you that I really loved, man. And I think you have another album that you guys recorded that didn't get released, the Pittsburgh Preps, man. Which I tell you what, I've heard the new Exhorder record, and I actually hear some of the vocals, some of your pitches on this new record remind me of some of the material from the Pittsburgh Preps record.
Well, that's good. Yeah. I mean, if you've got an ability to do something, why not use it? I think the evolution of my voice in Exhorder has definitely been a maturity thing. I do sing a lot differently in Exhorder than I would in Trouble. I don't sing as gruff in Trouble as I would sing in Exhorder, but I still think there's room for clean vocals in Exhorder. We started doing that in 1992, and really on Slaughter in the Vatican with the intro to Slaughter in the Vatican, the church hymn. I sang all of that. I learned all that in chorus class. So people could say, why are you doing this now? All of a sudden, it's not all of a sudden. Go back and listen to the albums again. You'll hear it. But yeah, Pitts versus Press was a lot more Judas Priest, Iron Maiden kind of stuff. We do have an album that's in the can. Actually, one of the guys from that band just texted me the other day saying, hey, man, you want to get together with me and see about trying to finish that album up. So we'd like to get it out there. It's really a good, strong album. And it's, more along the lines of rock and roll and traditional heavy metal with some influences here and there of, other things. But yeah, it's probably one of the hidden gems in my back catalog for sure.
Okay, cool. Well, we're going to talk about your new Exhorder record, but first, I am going to play a Pitts vs. Preps tune right now. This is "Keep Me From the Fire," which is the opening track on that record, which is, like I said, a killer record. What's it? Below and Beyond, 2006.
Below and Beyond, yeah.
Below and Beyond. We're going to play that track, and we'll be right back with Kyle to talk about the new Exhorder. This is Pitts vs. Preps from the 2006 record. Okay, Kyle. Thanks, man, again for joining us tonight. Hopefully, we can get you back on here, man, after the tour because there's so much shit we want to talk to you about with the trouble and just your choir school. I mean, I have a
Yeah,
shitload of stuff I want to talk to you about, but I know
Yeah,
you're
we
on a
saw
press thing.
you. We saw you in Tampa. We played with you guys when you did that Florida Death Fest in Tampa
oh
with
yeah,
Obituary.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was killer, dude.
Yes. So we,
yep.
we definitely want to get you on here and actually pick your brain because there's so much shit we want to ask you, but we know you're in a hurry today. So I want to talk about the new record. Um, so first of all, the title, that's a Latin phrase, right?
It is.
And it's defectum omnium.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
The English translation is the failure of all.
Failure of all. And the cover kind of relates to that. You had the cover done by Travis Smith, and you kind of wanted to go with a black and white cover, like a darker cover than what you've gone with in the past, right, for this record?
Everything we've done before had a lot of color in it, and the world is not a very colorful, happy place to me right now. And if we're making an album that's based upon the bleak uh, aftermath of what has been handed to us, then I think it should be dark and foreboding.
We have to talk about Pat because I know everyone in Tampa. We're all. I mean, I've loved Exhorder for years. I've loved who you've had in the band and the people in it. But I know for people in Tampa, everyone's happy to see Pat again, and I think it's awesome that you. I actually we talked about you on a couple weeks ago on a show, and I was like, man, it's fucking awesome that Kyle got Pat involved because Pat kind of disappeared for a while. I mean, we all know like the bullshit he went through, but and how did Pat get involved with you? And first of all, man, props for putting him in the band.
I can't take credit for that. That's Jason facilitated that. Jason and Pat are both from the Cincinnati area, and Pat, basically Pat, Jason, and Steve Tucker from Morbid Angel, they all go back to teenage years as friends. So Jason just basically said, "Man, Pat's not doing anything. Let's." When I started playing the guitar, and we needed a second guitar player, um, he just said, "Let's see what Pat wants." And he called Pat, and Pat was like, "Man, y'all don't want to mess with me. What do y'all want to mess with me for? Look at me." And he's like, "Are you crazy? People can't wait to see you play again, dude. Come on, give yourself a little
Maryland.
credit, And he was very down, and I understand why. So he told me, he said, "Dude, this is not an audition. Just come and jam with your friends, And that's what happened. He came and jammed and clicked, and even without the fact that, I mean, I stand firm behind the idea that I think Pat's more famous than my band is. So, his presence alone elevates us, but his not just his ability and how encouraging he's been to me as a guitar player, because, I'm just always like, I know I have to teach you the songs because they're our songs and you have to learn them and someone has to teach them to you, but feels weird me giving you a guitar lesson here. And he's like, "Dude, give yourself some credit. Look at what you're doing and singing. So he's been very instrumental in my development as a thrash guitarist, which I never was before, and having more confidence and feeling good about myself for what I'm doing. And I know that the more he and I play together, the more we lock in and the tighter it gets. And he's brought so much to the band. His person is the icing on the cake because he's just so chill and cool and kind and considerate and never problematic. Like the four of us together, it's like, this is crazy. This band has never had this much peace inside of it. Even when things go south and we have problems, we all just, whoever's freaking out, everybody else just kind of helps bring that person down so that we can get back to business at hand. So I hope this ride lasts a long time because I love playing with all four of these guys.
You,
Yeah,
Jason.
when you played Maryland, I remember I got kind of a back. I know a friend of a friend who was there because we played Maryland Death Fest the day before you guys,
Ah,
and
yeah,
we heard the rumor that that Pat was, and I was like, I got excited because as I told you before we started this, what he did for me when my stuff got stolen,
yeah,
and he's always been that guy. And when I heard he was doing, I was like, and then I heard after the show how many people like freaked out when they saw him on stage because
yeah,
in a good way they were like excited because I remember he was like, nobody's going to want to see me,
Yeah,
and it was the complete opposite. He
yeah.
absolutely got love, and people were more ecstatic to see him than they weren't, for
I
sure.
think I think he
Definitely.
was I think he would have been less surprised if people would have booed him and thrown things at him. It's like, dude, they love you, man. They love you.
Yeah.
And everyone loves the underdog story, the comeback story. So here we were, a band up against the ropes based on COVID and lineup changes and uh a totally new dynamic with me playing guitar now, and then here we go, like throw in the final ingredient, which is a guy who, had it all and lost it all, and still has a lot left to give. And so we're kind of like the island of misfit toys. That's the
Yeah,
way this band's
definitely.
always been.
Absolutely.
And you had Rick and Bruce from Trouble are guesting on this record too.
Yeah, they played solos on the last song, Year 6, and it's phenomenal. It's amazing.
Okay, and we're actually going to play when we head out of here. We're going to play "Year of the Goat," which is a killer tune that you guys just put out. And you guys, so like you said, so Jason, Sasha, and you have played together since 2017. Which in Exhorder, that's a pretty good run of
Yeah,
sticking together. You got Pat involved now. You guys are recording at home, which I know you love. You're doing your vocals at home. I think they did their the music in Indiana.
yeah, yeah. At Fat Track Studio in Bright, Indiana.
And you're on Nuclear Blast, which has something to do with Monty, obviously, which you mentioned Monty earlier. You've stuck as your 5th album, I think you've done with him. Yeah, man. And like I said, Kyle, I know you got to go to do more press, and I would love you to come back on here when you get more time and come chill. And
I'll
like
be
we have
happy to.
so much shit we want to ask you, man. You have no idea. And
I can't tell you how much of a fan this dude is. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I
got
love.
vocal lessons from Kyle actually years ago. I mean, actually, Kyle, I got one little thing to tell you really fast. Back in the day, probably 20 years ago, when internet first came out, I asked you for the lyrics to Anal Lust before they were online, and you sent them to me via email. Yes, indeed. I was working for the River Rag magazine. I emailed Kyle, and he sent them to me. And I
Lord
still
have
wish I
mercy.
didn't read them. No, I'm like,
Yeah. Talk about some
Good shit.
juvenile misogynistic tripe.
yeah, it was some, but no, man, we really appreciate you, and like I said, man, we definitely want to get you on here. There's so much shit to talk about. Trouble. We didn't even cover like I said, I know you're the fucking Bourbon Street guy, and I've seen you there, and doing those sets is insane. Probably one of the hardest gigs you've ever done, I've read. So, man,
Yeah.
definitely, like I said, I know you're on a time schedule, so we're going to let you get out of here. But we're going to play Year of the Goat on the way out from the new record that's coming out on March 8th, 2024. And Kyle, before you go, and we just got to sign off. We'll say goodbye to you when we sign off.
Okay.
But
So just hang out a second because everything.
just a 1 second, yes, or everything. Basically, the reason we tell people this is because all your tracks will upload when the interview's over, when we disconnect.
Okay.
Where can anybody find basically, the spiel, exhorder.com or whatever you guys got? Go ahead and shoot it over.
Exhorder.com is where you can connect to anything and everything Exhorder. That's the easiest place to start. That's official web store. That's also, there's links to all the socials there, tour dates, all that stuff. So Exhorder.com is a great place to start.
Cool. And yes, and so thanks, Kyle, for coming on again, man. And we will we'll talk to everybody back after this song. This is Year of the Goat from Exhorder off the new record that comes out March 8th, 2024 on Nuclear Blast, Defectum Omnium. And everyone, thanks again. Kyle, we appreciate you. And this is we'll be back after this track.
Take
That was Year of the Goat off the Defectum Omnium record from Exhorder that will be out March 8th, 2024. We thank Kyle for coming on the show. Kyle had to take off. He had for us, that was definitely a shorter show than we're used to. But, this press, when these guys are doing press, it's just they get bombarded. As you know, Ed, it just gets crazy for them.
The press junket doesn't wait for anybody. I mean, what's his name? Dave from Morbid Saint had the what do you say? Japan
or Dave from fucking Mortiscold.
Mortiscold, yeah. He had the
They're all
he
Milwaukee.
had the guy texting him, during our interview because I think he had a 3:30 or something like that.
Yeah.
And he missed it, but sorry about that. But unfortunately, we get enthralled with people, and sometimes they just they don't want to hear about what do you have on your pizza. So
that's like we had Don from Nunslaughter on a few weeks ago, and we talked to Don for 5 hours,
Yeah,
3 hours of an interview, and then 2 hours afterwards. Don was awesome, man.
My wife is like, "Did you got a new girlfriend? Marry somebody?" Because I've never heard you talk so long to somebody. And I'm like, "Listen, it's not forced. You know what I mean? It's not forced.
That shit was like we were just talking after the show ended. Usually, as you always say it on the show, when the show ends, that's when we kind of like, because you don't have to watch. First of all, we don't like ask anybody to say anything on our show they don't want to. We're not like out there looking for information. We're not out there trying to. Well, we're getting information, but we're not trying to pull controversy and shit.
Yeah, we don't prod people for controversial stuff.
Yeah, we don't try to get on people's get them to spill some shit that they don't want to say. But like most of our, I just don't like, how would I put it? When you're dealing with the press, when you're dealing with albums coming out, there's like, especially these bands, like, Exhorders they're blowing up a little bit, and I didn't even get to mention it to Kyle, but I know that Kyle's always said basically that every time Exhorder breaks up, when they get back together, they're bigger each time. Each time it gets bigger and bigger, the band.
It's true.
Yeah. So, when you're dealing with like doing press for albums, I know, like we've talked about it, Ed, I'll be honest, on our show, like we usually try not to go that route. Like we try.
Well, we ask the person, or if we're dealing with an agent, I know we ask usually for at least an hour, but
we like a loose schedule. If it goes 30 minutes, it goes 30 fucking minutes. But if it goes longer, that's what we want to, kind of roll with.
True. So, and that's why we haven't tried to get like bigger names, pull one out of a hat. Cause we know we're only going to get 15, 20 minutes, and we can't do what we do in that time frame. I mean,
no, I tried to get Mickey Mars on. I'll be totally honest. Like I tried to get Mickey Mars on because obviously a lot of us, I notice it more as we have guests on too. First couple crew records, man, when you're our age, that was the shit when you were a kid. People could be like, now everyone's like, oh, fuck Motley Crue, fuck this. But when you're, back when you're from that time period, those first two records are golden, to a lot of us. And I remember like when Mickey Mars was doing his solo shit, which just came out a little bit ago, I talked to his agent, and like, because with guys like Mickey Mars, you're not messaging Mickey Mars and he's going to be like, hey, what's up, dude? A lot of these guys we brought on, we either know them personally,
right,
or whatever,
or we have a in with somebody who does know them.
Yeah, so it's like that. So like when I message Mars, you got to figure if you get these guys on. Now, first of all, I'll be honest. If I got Mickey Mars on the show, there's two records I want to talk about: Too Fast for Love, Shout at the Devil.
Right.
After that, it's what okay, but like that's the truth. And the problem is that these guys, these bigger bands, they're trying to promote a record. They're just trying to sell the new record. So I know with Kyle, I've been wanting to get Kyle on forever. I know you have too. And he will come back on again. And then definitely I'm looking forward to that because I'd rather have more time. Whenever, like I said, you're doing these press things for these albums, you're really short on time. There's a lot of shit I wanted to talk about with Slaughter in the Vatican, the law. There's a lot of shit with that band that like, those first two records, man, that's just some great shit.
Good period of time for I want to say that's probably Slaughter in the Vatican's probably the one album that got me to play guitar and learn guitar because I'm a bass player.
Exactly. Yeah.
By natural, that's what I am. I'm just a bass player. But that playing those songs, there was just something to those songs that I just learned that, and like the old Sacrifice record. Forward Determination, stuff like that, because it had such a, it was just fucking raw and heavy, and it wasn't death metal. It was just heavy. It was brutal. I mean, Slaughter in the Vatican's brutal as shit.
And
And
Slaughter in the Vatican for me was so awesome because like I was into the punk music at that time too, and the metal, and
good
it was
crossover
different.
record.
Yeah, it was a good like you had like the deicides and the obituaries coming down, which was fucking great. But like Exhorder was a little.
I never thought of them as a death metal band.
Nope, nope.
Never.
And they didn't think of. I actually Scott Burns said that the two best songs, the two songs that he thinks are the best songs he ever recorded was "Sacrificial Suicide" from Deicide and "Desecrator" from Exhorder. Which I mean, like I said, there was a lot of shit I wanted to talk to Kyle about tonight, but there was just like you had to pick and choose.
It was still a killer interview though, man. And
Yeah,
we did,
yeah.
And coming off of the last couple we've done, we had a busy couple weeks, dude. So
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we had it was the last what was it we had it was like in 20 and
we had to
14
do some
days we
Morbid
had
Saint.
three. Morbid
Yep,
Saint,
Morbid Saint, Dave from Mortis Gold, and then
Don from Nunslaughter.
Don from Nunslaughter, and now Kyle. So we had 4 pretty big interviews in a row for us.
Yeah, and the thing with Kyle is the reason that we were so like I said, we don't really hide anything on the show. We don't give a shit. Like I wanted to wait to have Kyle on and try to get him on
longer
after the press circuit, but it was kind of like how would I put it? I deal with the person who books Kyle, so it was kind of put on my plate, and I was like, well, how do I say no to that? Because I wanted to get him on anyway. But I just, like I said, you're pretty much given a window, like a 30-minute, 45-minute window. That's how it goes. You got to do the best with it. I think we got some cool shit out of it,
Absolutely.
It's a lot of stuff we didn't cover. I mean, because Kyle, like I said, that guy has done a lot of stuff. I tell you, that Distortion Field record he did with Trouble was amazing.
Great.
We played with them, like you said, 2016?
Yep. I think so, yeah.
2016,
17? Something
like that. We're good. Yeah, time flies. It's great. I know, and I never forget. So, but now that that New Orleans show that we were talking about, which was 2018, because I got married right afterwards, because my anniversary is actually next month. It's crazy too. I've been married for fucking 6 years now.
Oh.
That's crazy, isn't it? So but we went. So Ed knows. So at this time, I was with Generic Christ. We were rolling. It was me, Ed, and a couple other dudes in Generic Christ. I'm not going to mention any names particularly because I don't want to toss anybody under the bus. But we were so we go to New Orleans to go see Exhorder. I'm like, well, this would be a cool. I'm not really bachelor party, whatever. I'd rather go to New Orleans. It was the Mardi Gras time period too. Exhorder was playing with, I think, War Curse.
Yep.
War Curse they were playing with. So Ed skipped out on this. Ed probably made. I mean, I had a great fucking time. I saw Exhorder, so it was wonderful. Chris Nell caught up and played with him, but Ed made kind of a smart choice.
I didn't do it. Logistically, I couldn't do it.
So we went to New Orleans. We drove. It was the rest of the band went. All of us, we went down there to New Orleans, and it was Mardi Gras too, which was Mardi Gras was the same. I think it was the same night as the show. It was starting up. So we're in Bourbon Street, and it was just I remember the band itself. I'll be honest, the Generic Christ, we had a little too much to drink. A couple of us were doing some other shit, and we wanted to kill each other by the end of that trip. There was a time period where I thought everyone was going to fist fight. Ed knows.
I'm pretty sure I was the only one that was allowed to stay in the band after that trip.
Yeah, we went. Yeah, we had. I mean, it was fucking crazy. It was totally nuts. We had one guy that went off with somebody didn't know to go find something at Bourbon Street at 2 a.m. And
that's smart.
That was it. That's what you don't want to do in New Orleans. I've been there. No. I think I went maybe 7 years in a row or something.
If you want to get stabbed, you can do that. That's a smart idea. But if you're not looking to get stabbed, you're probably better off staying with the crew because that's always the thing.
You're right, dude. It was definitely.
I remember my old Sifu when I was doing Jeet Kune Do. He was telling us, we were asking him why, the hand-to-hand combat, and he told us because we used to do eskrima, which is knives, how to take knives away and stuff. And I'm like, what do you need this for? And then he told us a story how he was at Bourbon Street and he was not feeling good, so he went back to the hotel and he took a wrong turn down a street that was dark, and 4 dudes came out of nowhere with knives. And he said he was the only one that walked out of the alley. So,
Oh shit.
so now this is a trained individual who's like badass. Now take any one of the fucking, at least 2 out of the 3 guys that were there besides you, they're going to be laying there with fucking giant holes in their body because they're not fighters. So,
Well, yeah, that's the thing though. You kind of learn. Like I remember me and my ex wife used to go there. Like I think we were there. Like I said, 7 years in a row or some shit. We used to go every Halloween. I went to go see. I saw Dax Riggs play a few times there. I went over to I think it was playing that place called Jackrabbits, if I remember
yep.
correctly.
Yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah, I was go see Dax, which was awesome. Everybody who's a Acid Bath fan, Dax solo shit's great. Totally different. I mean, totally different, but it was
Still shreds.
killer. Still killer. But the thing is you kept to yourself. Like, so if you went there, you just kind of like kept with who you were with. You definitely don't go in the alleyways to talk to anybody. And this is just it's like the rules of, it's like if, growing up in Jersey, like Newark and New York or New York, you kind of learn the ways to do things. And it's the same there. But we went to go see Exhorder there, and it was a total chaos. Like, like I said, we were drinking a little too much on Bourbon Street. It was the Mardi Gras weekend. But man, I'll tell you what, whoever hasn't been to Mardi Gras, it's definitely it's a trip. That whole setup, and Halloween's great. I will say Halloween is great there. I think we went, it was like a bunch of Halloweens in a row I used to go. And it was a killer place. Just got to be safe. Just got to be, chill. But saw Exhorder, they were great. Chris Nell got up there and played with them. And I've talked to Chris since then. Chris I would love to get Chris on this show actually. Because Chris actually, I think he owns a music stores there now. He's doing Chris is really successful, I believe. He's, which I think actually, which we didn't talk about tonight because we didn't have really the time, but when they were doing the Slaughter in the Vatican tour, I think they didn't tour that much because Chris was in school. And I think when they did the Law, he was able to tour more. So that's why they did more then, but that was anybody who, I like the Law. I understand, like, I know with those guys, they weren't really satisfied with that record. And that's why, as we were saying on the interview, that is why they pulled like some of those demo tracks and moved them over to the Law because they needed more material. They did the Black Sabbath cover, they did all that stuff. And they had Frankie on that too, who passed away, the bass player. I think he only played on one tune on that record though, but he, there was a great band. And like I said, I hope we get Kyle back on again.
We should.
We've all talked to Kyle. I've talked to Kyle several times, and he's a good guy, man. Like I said, I kind of knew tonight. I think we both talked about it maybe yesterday or earlier today. We kind of knew that it was going to be a faster interview, so we kind of just threw what we could at him. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I mean, there was some stuff there that I have not heard talked about, so that was kind of cool.
Absolutely.
So, and Ed, you're finally, wrapped up Morrisound, huh?
I did. At least I wrapped up the new record's done.
The new Monstrosity. So would you guys have any ideas? Like, there's like a plan of when it's coming out, or it's just kind of up in the air? Like, this the main shit's done now.
We just like the last song was just finished yesterday vocally. So I think basically Matt's got to just plug in his leads, and my understanding, once Lee figures out the artwork or whatever, I think it's going to be hitting the fucking streets. Probably.
And you worked with Prater this time, Mark Prater, who we've worked with a bunch of times.
Yeah, man. Him and Jim, same thing. Mark rides my ass. So, they get the best because he was doing it too, man. I thought I was going to get a free ride with Mark, but that motherfucker was like, nope, that sounded like shit. You can do that again. Nope, bring out the Cobra. Let's go. Come on, man. I need better. It's not what I, so it's good because, some people will just let you, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, that's fine. And, of course, Lee's a stickler, to have it done right. But there was a couple times Lee was like, you sure, man? And Mark's like, nah, dude, he needs to do that again. And I'm glad he did because, he when somebody pushes you and gives you that type of inspiration, man, I listened to the last tune we did, which is apparently should not be on a Monstrosity record. So when you hear it, maybe you'll figure out which one it is. But I listened to it and was like, this is fucking probably.
Is it going to be the final track? Do you like kind of know the sequence?
No, it wasn't sequenced out at all. But I will tell you that, you'll figure it out now because it's probably got one of the longest screams I've ever done, ever. And as you know, and Prater knows, because he's recorded many of those screams. He said apparently it's probably on the vein of the longest.
Because I remember your scream on the Generic Christ record for what was it, the Taste of Death record for "Kill Your Parents." That
Yep.
track,
Yeah,
you were seeing stars at the end of that one.
Yeah, and this was weird because they wanted me to go from a certain point to the end of the song, and I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding, dude?" And but yeah, I ended it with no problem. I mean, I probably could have gone longer. So yeah,
don't you feel like when you're working with Prater, like there's such a comfort level, like
yeah,
because we did the Flesh Reaper records with Prater. I think we did all the Flesh Reaper with Prater. Yeah,
all three Generic Christ too. So
yeah, all the later Generic Christ records were done with Prater, and I just felt like there was just I actually, even the Massacre, when you did the Massacre record and I did the song Evil Within with you, we went to him. It was like,
yep. And then which never took any. We did it. It didn't do anything, but the Skin Tomb. Yep. So we
lost all those fucking tracks. Well, I mean, that was a nightmare losing all that. We lost all that shit. I don't. There was that's a whole nother dilemma right there. That with that. But with Prater, I always felt like there was definitely anybody who doesn't know Prater worked at Moore Sound. He's back at Moore Sound. He worked at Red Room Studios. Which was in Ybor. I think it changed locations a few times. I saw St. Vitus closed down, huh?
Yeah.
In New York. Yeah, what was up with that?
I don't know, man. Money. Dude, that New York's a cesspool, bro. I hate to say it.
But the city closed it down, right?
I don't know. I don't know the whole story, but who knows? Probably need a shelter for people. Who knows?
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, holy shit, they started moving shows. That's how whenever you start seeing shows get moved, like it was like this show's getting moved here, this show's getting moved here. You kind of know something's fucking going on. And, or like, I remember the Foo Bar in St. Pete was like, we'll be back eventually. Most likely they ain't coming back.
Yep. And that did not
Or was it local? Yeah, the Foo Bar, they were the ones saying, oh, we're going to find somewhere else to relocate. Usually doesn't happen because the Foo Bar was usually packed when I was there for the most part.
Every show we played, dude, was standing room. I mean, you couldn't get in. So,
and then we got the new, anybody who cares at all, the new Doomsla came out, 2 weeks ago, which is a record that it's me, Derek Roddy, Jim Ross, Mike Bagioni, and then Ed plays on actually a lot of it and does vocals on it. And that, there's a whole bunch of Doomsla shit going to be happening in the next year that I can't announce yet. I mean, there's a bunch of covers we did too, besides the regular album, which we haven't mentioned the songs, but there's Ed plays on all the covers. Actually, he plays on Mr. Crowley, which is on the new Doomsla record. Which the Doomsla is I don't know, how would you, it's like death metal, doom metal. It's a weird.
It's just an eclectic of weird ambience at times. You have to hear it. I mean, I don't think you can pigeonhole it into any category. Maybe the first Doomzilla, because it was more slow and long. And
you have to pack a sandwich for that one. It's a great record, but it's fucking songs are like 14 minutes, 15 minutes. It's like you got to fucking bring a lunch for listening to that one.
Yeah, but this record, when we were doing the vocals up at Jim's, it was definitely it was good, man. And Derek being a part of it, man, made, when I heard the drums, I was like, oh man, this it's solid, man. It's good shit. If you're expecting Deicide, you'll be fucking let down, because that's
but
not
it's heavy. It's very heavy, very
fast. It's a different type of heavy, man. And the vocals, listen, I've said this about you. You are the Dr. Claw, dude. I mean, you do these vocals that I'll get you next time, Gadget. I'll get you. That's what you remind me of, dude, because you can do voices that I could never do. You can talk and do these creepy voices, and almost like that King Diamondish, the way he can do all those weird voices.
Without the paychecks.
I can do some of them, but not on a record. But yeah,
having Derek involved, like you said, is a huge. That was, I think that I can honestly say,
that was the turning point for Doomzilla to elevate it
to make another record.
Yes, for sure.
I didn't know if we would. I was like, because you can never duplicate. Like that first record, we were all in a fucked up place. I know I was in a crazy place of life, and I know all of us were. we couldn't. It was like when Derek got involved, it kind of gave us new life again. We have had those songs written for a while, but it actually made us get motivated. Like, fuck, man, we got Derek Roddy playing with us, and obviously, me and you both like listen to Derek, like Hate Eternal. I mean, just
Well, I
I
did
mean,
that I was on the first Hate Eternal tour they did, and
yeah. So
again, that he was part of the whole thing when I was talking to Kyle about Pat. When my shit got stolen, Derek, Eric, and Jared were like fucking. Again, I can talk forever about a lot of these guys, man, because people think that all these guys are whatever. These guys are real deal, man. You get some people who just they are from their core good people, and Derek is one of them for sure.
and you mentioned Kyle, but Pat, I mean, and like we were talking with Kyle tonight, is awesome to see Pat involved with Exhorder, and I love Vinny. Like it's for I'm much like I love the Exhorder, the Vinny sound on guitar. But if there's anybody that's going to go into that band, I mean Pat, it's fucking awesome because the dude, you can't help but root for this guy. And I thought it was really cool, during the interview that Kyle kind of said that, like, you look at that for Exhorder even changing that core members because Kyle and Vinny were the core members. They were the dudes. I mean, and to bring Pat in and to give Pat that opportunity, which was through Jason, I thought it was through Kyle, which is killer. I know Jason Jason played with Heathen and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, it's just awesome. And I know Pat, and
Pat's
how
awesome,
could you not be
dude.
happy for him?
Yeah, everybody keeps talking about. I wish people would just stop talking about what happened to him
They
because
don't even know either. It's just all
none of us
fucking.
will ever know what truly happened.
Yeah.
Just leave the fucking dude alone. He's a good guy, and
Everyone's had shit happen in their lives, It's
and
like
if you haven't talked to him or you haven't met him, then shut up because if you did, you'd be singing a different tune. I mean, I remember Pat when he was coming out of Nevermore to join Monstrosity. So I know Pat from way back when he was, when he was in Monstrosity for a little while before he got the gig. You know what I mean? So whatever, man. I mean, people are always going to talk, but he's a good dude.
opinions are like assholes, as we've said the last couple episodes. Everybody's got one, so it's one of those things, But I mean, I think it's awesome, and the new record for, like we said, Exhorder's new record's out March 8th. Yeah, man. So that's we talked. We like I said, I'm glad to have Kyle on tonight. We're gonna do we were talking the other day. We're gonna do an episode, just me and you, probably next. Maybe I don't know what your schedule. We'll figure out our schedules because you got some shit going on that we can't really talk about yet, but we will the next week or two.
I don't know. Maybe we'll see. I once I can announce it, I'm sure I'll be able to announce it on here. But
Yeah.
until then, I'm tied to secrecy, and unless you want to give $20 to Tony, you can go
That's
on
right.
Instagram. He'll
Ed's into body modification now. He's adding some he's adding some new parts for the podcast.
Might have taken parts away. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah,
That
and I have to say, man, we've had some really good feedback from listeners, and I don't know what we ever expected from this show, but it's way beyond. So far, I mean, the Dawn of the Dead episode, God, it's like 500 fucking listens or some bullshit, which is crazy, like awesome. Like, and anybody who writes us, I know there's, people I've talked to who listen to the show.
Yeah, when we do our own show, we'll answer those questions. We like to.
Yeah, I had some message. I have some shit for you. I got some stuff sent to me from my buddy Wilt, who I've been talking to a little bit, who listens to the show. He listens to a lot of the episodes, man. I mean, I got to give him credit, and he has some questions he sent me for you. So we'll get those on the next show. I have a few other questions we can add to it. So if anybody wants to actually send us any questions, you can send them to thetampamorgue@gmail.com, and we will answer them on our show. Like I said, the next episode, we don't have anybody scheduled, so we're going to try to keep it like that unless something pops up. But, like I said, we kind of plan out pretty well. We don't always do the press junkets like this because, we like to kind of do it at our own pace. So, the next episode will probably just be us, and we'll just kind of catch up on some shit. And maybe, Ed, we should do an episode like you've been saying. We'll do an episode where we'll play some of our projects that we've done because, we've done between Generic Christ, Doomsala, Massacre, Diabolic, all the shit that we've done. There's a lot of stuff we could play. And I know people have actually, which I think everybody again. There's actually people who have told me they went and didn't even know about our bands and they went and listened to them because of the show, which is
Absolutely.
awesome. I mean, and Ed, whoever, Ed's been on a bunch of shit. So, what, Ed, you got Back from Beyond, Infinity Through Purification from Diabolic. What else you got? A bunch of shit, man.
Eulogy demo, the Lesson in Fear demo. If you can find it, the full length Contorted, that Edge of Darkness record.
I have that.
I know. I gave
and
it.
Ed gave me a triple X shirt too. I'm like, I think I weigh like 140 pounds, man. So
that was the Destined to Ruin stuff.
Yeah, it's like a fucking raincoat on me.
Good luck finding any of that. Yeah, I mean, I've had a long career, man.
Yeah, and it's good. You got lots of cool shit coming up too, man. And I got to say, man, you deserve it, and I'm really happy for you. And remember us little guys when you're pissing on our podcast one day.
We've been saying that for years.
Remember our fucking.
Ain't doing no pissing yet, so we ain't gotten nowhere yet. Hey, listen, man, I'm just, I don't do this for glory or to fucking whatever. If I did, man,
for glory holes.
That's for sure. I'm on the receiving end too of the glory hole. So if you guys want to put it, let me know. I'll get
at a Patreon or some shit like that. We'll fucking
my OnlyFans.
Yeah, exactly. Is there any? So do you guys have any shows coming up at all?
No, nothing booked. No. Nothing that I'm aware of. I've been getting messages from a couple people that want us to play Orlando. I told Lee, so because we didn't play, we played Miami and then we did Tampa, and I was like, well, fucking Orlando's close enough for people to come to Tampa, but apparently not. Apparently people just want you to go to Orlando because they don't want to come to you. They want you to come to them. So, but the the logistics of that. Matt's in Alabama, and
it's got to make sense.
Mark's in New York, and then if Justin's on the road, we got to get Sam caught up with everything, and it tweaks everything because Matt's got to play all the leads. So, we have two guitar players that can play at any time, and both guys are fucking badass in their own right. But Justin is a very busy dude with his own projects. He literally came off the cruise, had a day off, and then went on tour for 2 weeks with some jazzy kind of band all throughout the Southeast. So I think he said he was home. He owns a house that he said he was in. I think he said he was in for 70 whole days last year.
Wow. He has no wife and kids though, right?
He has a girlfriend and, a couple dogs or something, but yeah, no kids, no, he's not married, but it's still, the road will wear you down. Listen, my kids are grown and I don't think I could do, figure was that 270 days on the road? 200. I don't think I can do that. I don't think I could. Now I say that because we talk about the hardest working man in metal. Who's that? Who do we always say is the hardest working guy in death metal? Terry Butler.
Terry Butler. Yeah, well, Terry, he's got, everything Terry touches has been gold lately. It's like fucking.
Well, it's just what I'm saying, he comes back from Japan and Australia, and then he's fucking out with this band for fucking 3 weeks on the road, and then he's doing a fucking cruise with this band, and then he's going to that Europe with that other band, and then he comes back to go on tour for 6 months with this band. My wife would fucking, she'd be fucking having 2 new dudes over here just taking care of her like crazy because I don't,
Well, we need to get Terry on the show too, man. Like,
I've talked to him. The problem is you got to catch him when he's here.
They're not on tour, or something.
He's out right now with Inhuman Condition, which I'm probably going to go see him. They're playing here March 3rd.
Oh, are they playing at the Mug?
Orpheum.
I have not been to the new Orpheum,
which is crazy because that's a weird day for me because that's the day my mom passed away. So I was do I really want to go out on that day? But then I was like, yeah, I need to get the fuck.
And you just toured with Origin, like last year?
Last year, yep, in Europe, and they were great dudes, man. Fucking great. Great dudes. I got nothing but great praise for those guys, man. Because they're not only do they shred, because I remember back in the day it was fucking those dudes are just noise, dude. Watch them. If you can do what that guitar player does and Mike does on bass, cool. Show me, because they're a different breed. And that Jason, the way he sings and if you watch him on stage, he wears me out, dude. he does that shit for an hour, walking back and forth and running around and fucking moving his hands. And I'm like, dude, that's like a workout for me at the gym, what you're doing on stage. I mean,
Who was the other band on that tour with you? That
there
you
were two bands.
they were the
There were,
Bion, right? What was the Bion band?
there was, well, there were, I don't know if the other one band was called Reject the Sickness.
And where are
And
they
they
out
were,
of?
God, where are they out of?
Put that on
I'm
the
not sure. I
spot.
can't remember. Yeah, well, I'm
You
trying
hate
to think if
that?
it was Holland, because there were. I know the other bands from Estonia, and they were called Intrepid.
That's near my area right here,
Yeah,
Estonia.
yeah, they were kids, and then Reject the Sickness. I want to say, God, I feel like an idiot. But they were. I mean, but the cool thing is that the kid band sounded like a Bolt Thrower, Benediction ish kind of heavy, and then the other dudes were just a ripping death metal band, which, again, I oddly enough, I became friends with both singers. I helped the younger guy in Intrepid because he was blowing out his voice every night, and I'm like, dude, why are you doing 4 or 5 songs during sound check? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, he was singing full songs during sound check, and I'm like, listen, buddy, let me have a quick talk with you. I said, because he would go, my throat, it hurts, man. And I'm like, yeah, I wonder why. Because you're singing a full set and then doing half a set during sound check.
And
I'm
that
like,
shit will
dude,
fuck you up. Like,
it will
remember
destroy you, dude.
we were talking to Don about like when you have to talk, like, which I even know you're at venues and you're playing a show and before you're setting up or your merchandise, or whatever the fuck you're selling. And when they're blasting the music and you're trying to talk over it, it
It's
really
not,
does
it
wear
hurts.
on you a little bit.
And I had times where the guys like in those bands would go, dude, are you mad? And I'm like, no. And they're like, well, you're quiet. And I'm like, yes, I'm trying to reserve my voice because I'm singing an hour every night. Because we were doing an hour set with Origin. Both had an hour. So, an hour. And sometimes we had stretches where we did 10 shows in a row. That's
Well,
a
how
lot
about
of,
Tardy, right? You can
yeah, well,
explain how Tardy does it.
oh yeah. When we did the DTA tour, I'd go looking for like on the bus. I'm like, where's John? They're like, oh, he's in the bunk. It'd be 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, before 12 midnight, and he's already asleep. But when I would wake up, like in the morning, I get up because I get up early no matter what. I'm not a guy that can ever, even on tour, I can't tell you a time. 7 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock. I mean, latest 8. That would be if we were up till 2, 3, 4 in the morning. I'm up at 8. Uh, that John wasn't sitting there fucking counting money and doing the merch and going through the books and shit at 7 in the morning, drinking coffee. And I'm just like, I would wake up and he's like, what's up, dude? And I would sit and talk to him because nobody's else is up. And I learned a lot about band business through John because they don't have a manager they are. That's why they're so successful, because they don't have a dude reaching in their pockets and fucking taken away from them. And I think that's the secret sauce is stop having a fucking manager. And because as long as you got a booking agent that can get you gigs, or you have the ability to get gigs, you don't need anybody else, because that's what contracts are for. As long as you got a good lawyer and you got contracts, man, you're good. And
Yeah.
they're successful, man. And yeah, keeping your voice, is such a prime thing, man, especially with the sound dude we had, because that was the fucking worst.
Oh
The
yeah,
worst.
you wanted to. I remember you were in
Oh,
that mode. I remember you were
one
not
of the
enjoying
fucking
that too much.
no, man. And what's crazy is I've proved my point, because a lot of people thought I was being a little carried away, but we played South America for 2 weeks. Had no issues with my squeals coming through the mic. I had no fucking voice problems. I was the strongest I'd ever been. So it wasn't me. It was the
Yeah.
dude doing my sound, because he was doing our sound. He did all the bands. And I could promise you I would hear squeals during Origin set. So whatever. It is what it is, man. The object is get big enough to where you can have a fucking sound guy like Prater following you around and you sound like
Yeah,
$1,000,000. Like,
definitely.
that's why when I saw In Human Condition on the cruise that last night, I was like, holy fucking what the fuck, man? Because I saw 4 or 5
Kling
bands
was running his sound right for them. He was
so
running his
because
own
he's sick,
sound.
because he don't play an instrument, he's not drumming. So he went up there and did all the sound, and then all he had to do was go down there and do his mic. And yeah, it fucking sounded incredible, man. So yeah, and I can hear on the videos that I'm hearing on the Vader tour. every set they sound fucking killer. And why? Because he's doing sound. So, and he does sound for Deicide. So
Yeah,
that's
see,
why
I
they sound
mean,
killer.
he did sound for Overkill too, didn't he?
Yeah.
Or was
Oh
he
yeah.
tour manager, which he was doing sound for
Both.
them?
I think he did both because when we went to Costa Rica, I remember seeing him down there, and he was doing sound for them that night.
Yeah, Kling's got it going on, man. And so yeah, so that's, we appreciate everybody who definitely checked out the show tonight. We decided to would bullshit a little bit at the end of the show and give it a little extra, but we want to thank Kyle Thomas for coming on. Definitely, you know, I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody that listens to the show has heard the first couple Exhorder records, so they know like how much history, what a big part of history that band is. Um, so yeah, if you
If
haven't,
not,
then
go hit yourself against the fucking wall
smack yourself.
because you
But
missed out.
yeah, so we'll get them back on, and once they get back, I think they're going on tour. Fuck, I forget where I saw some of the dates there, but they have a bunch of shit going on. But like, you know how it goes when the new albums roll out, it's time to basically to go sell it. So especially these days, because you're not going to
We'll
really
hope.
sell too many records. You got to sell the merch and play
We'll
the
hope
gigs.
that's the case.
Yeah, yes. So our fingers are crossed. But it's funny because like I said, we got some good stories out of him, and the Phil one was really interesting because that's not something you hear very often. That Phil was actually in there for one day, basically in that band, because I know Vinny had him come in,
And he gave him the gold record. So there you go.
and Phil gave him the gold record. So like I said, it's because everyone's always like, I mean, the whole, we all know the old controversy. Everybody's like,
We
oh,
do.
this band did this and this band did that.
Who
Like
gives a
Kyle said,
shit?
it's pretty much nonsense, whatever. But yeah, man. So anybody who listens, first of all, if you could do us a favor and you do listen, go to our YouTube and subscribe. I guess it's a thing. If you go on to Spotify and stuff, give us a 5-star rating, I guess is a deal too. This is all shit that will
Whatever.
help us get to more, I guess it basically helps you get to more avenues. I don't really know what it
Yeah.
does yet, but we'd
Follow
like to
us on
find out.
Instagram too. Give us
Follow
a
us on
follow
Instagram.
because that's where you're going to find out about a lot of stuff. Because we don't use Facebook as much.
Sucks.
I know, dude.
Facebook sucks. We have a page, but I don't even, you have to like really pay to get people to go there. And we just don't do that. We would, we basically pay for our own show right now. So hopefully one day we won't have to pay for our own show. Hopefully we at least get money to put out the show because, it's like, it does cost some cash, but we like doing it. So we're at 33 episodes after tonight, which is crazy. And we'll come back with a show probably, I don't know, I'll figure it out with Ed, maybe Sunday or something. But everybody who listens, Ed, you know what to do. Tell them where.
Yep, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Amazon, Instagram. Follow us there. We'll do we do well because we do Instagram lives.
Yeah, we do Instagram live. Next week we'll probably do that. This week we've been kind of like I said, this week we were pounded with. We had a bunch of interviews we had to do and shit, so we were kind of busy. Ed's been in the studio. I have 2 kids, which is a whole another world. And if they're listening to this show, I love you guys. But appreciate everybody who listens. Contact us at thetampamorgue@gmail.com. And we always appreciate you. Thank you for listening to the Tampa Morgue. Again, we thank Kyle Thomas for giving us his time tonight. And we will see you soon, right, Ed?
You got it. See ya.
Have a good night, guys. Peace.